Hey there, everyone, and welcome to Halfway Through the Heat, episode 53. 53 episodes of this. You guys keep coming back to listen. I don't know if that means something good about us or something wrong with you. Could be both. But this got some news about TNA. TNA news. Everybody likes TNA news, right? We've got a lot of it. Um, we've got more stuff about crazy fans, of course, related to all the things the crazy fans are related to. We've got Vader and Will Ospreay having a match. ESPN launching some more wrestling stuff on ESPN. Amazing. And we've got, of course, something positive about Raw. But we've also got, before that, we've got SummerSlam NXT previews, some 20 best wrestlers of 2016 by Paste Magazine. I assume that's not going to be so hot. But we got to talk about something positive about Raw because we need a little positivity up in here.
I thought the Brock Lesnar Heath Slater thing was pretty good.
Yeah, no, that was good. I thought the it actually was set up really nicely. Felt like it actually had some kind of like build to it. Not that I thought Heath Slater was going to have a chance against Brock Lesnar, but
No,
it was a nice kind of build up to make Brock Lesnar look strong, but also make Heath Slater look even more desperate.
yeah, and I think it also one thing I thought it did really well was convey the total menace of Lesnar. He'd sort of been kind of defanged a little bit. Um, and by the way, as we're taping, SmackDown is on, and Heath Slater's getting pounded on by Randy Orton. So not so good. But the Lesnar thing I liked, when he's like, "I don't give a shit about your kids," like that's good to me. That because like Lesnar is this monster and he should be seen as a monster, and um, I thought that really kind of went a long way to establishing like the chaotic neutral thing. Like he's not a good guy. He's not really a bad guy. He's just this dude who's going to come in and beat people up because that's what he does. I liked it.
Yeah, it was good. I liked the idea of, I wonder what they're gonna do with Heath Slater. I wonder if he's gonna come out in SummerSlam and totally screw these both of these guys.
That would be amazing. That would be
Imagine
incredible.
the end. Imagine
Like
the end of SummerSlam. Heath Slater is standing tall over fallen Brock Lesnar and Randy Orton.
I would love it so
Surprise of the
much.
year.
I don't think they have it in them to do that, but I would. I mean, I would stand up and cheer in my house. Um, Other than that, nothing really caught my eye. It was okay. I mean, for the last show before SummerSlam, it wasn't terrible, but you know, it wasn't quite as compelling as we've seen Raw in recent weeks and months. Um, but I still have high hopes for SummerSlam, as we'll talk about. Anything else about Raw jump out at you?
Um, my favorite thing about Raw, my positive thing about Raw, was another fan rushed a member of the Shield.
Yes,
Of course, a member of the Shield.
it's like it's like Christmas for us when this happens because like over a year ago we started talking about how this was a weird trend, and like every time it happens again, just another notch on our belts. Another, and I guess this guy was wearing a hard hat or something,
Uh,
or a crash helmet.
no idea, but he got like straight up flipped by security.
Yeah, he did. He didn't. I mean, I think he might have like brushed against the apron before getting brought down. And what I liked about, I mean, and all credit to Seth Rollins, just continued his promo as if nothing was happening, and then like worked the guy into it as he's being dragged off. He was like, "Oh, is that the Demon King or something?" I mean, he recovered very well. But yeah, like folks, I don't know how many times we have to say this. Don't try to touch or fight or kill the members of the Shield. I don't know why we have to keep saying this.
Yeah, I guess those people aren't listeners of the podcast because we probably don't have enough um slash slash porn on here for them to be really excited.
That's true. The real hardcore Shield fans are they're looking in other corners of the internet. they've got their Twitter RP accounts where they're constantly shipping Dean Ambrose with Seth Rollins and Dana Brooke and Nia Jax or something, or Henry Kissinger. I don't know. It's a weird world out there. Is basically what I'm saying. Yeah, that was another great moment on Raw. Hey, if fans are going to rush the ring and just get caught by security, I love it. I love it. I would secretly love it more if one guy actually made it into the ring and then just got pounded into a pulp. But I imagine that would only happen at a house show. I don't think they would do that on live TV.
Yeah, they probably wouldn't do it at a house show either because they don't want to be sued. But, you know, if it were 1980,
oh yeah,
that guy would have been murdered.
Yeah. Oh my God. Yeah, it was like Stan Hansen or something.
I wouldn't even. I don't even want to imagine if it were Stan Hansen. Jesus. It's like,
but that stuff still
Haku.
happens, you know. Yeah. Oh God. Oh God. Oh my God. It'd be like the Texas Chainsaw Massacre. But we talked about this. I don't know, a couple months ago. There was some indie show in Georgia, and it's up on the blog. Some indie show in Georgia, like somebody pulled a gun on a wrestler, on a heel. This woman in the crowd pulled a gun on the guy. Like, there are still people who get so worked up about it that they don't realize what. I mean, if you have a gun, you're putting everyone in danger. But there are people who like run up and try to like get involved. And what are you doing? You're gonna get badly hurt.
That's basically how you are at wrestling shows. You're always like trying to rush the wrestlers, stab people.
Yeah, I don't.
You're
understand.
really into wrestling.
You're too into wrestling, and you probably like TNA. Anyway. So anyway, Raw.
They would really like TNA if members of the Shield were there.
Oh my God. Oh my God. Speaking of TNA, that's a good segue. Our first news item this week. People probably heard about this. This happened Friday, and I was super bummed out that I didn't notice until later because I had all these great hot takes that cooled on the windowsill of history. Billy Corgan, Smashing Pumpkins frontman, is now the president of Impact Ventures, which is the parent company of TNA. This is the first time that Dixie Carter has not been president in many years. And she now has a role of chairman, sort of an ill-defined role. And according to numerous media reports, as president, Corgan will be responsible for leading the day-to-day operations of Impact. Dixie will focus on long-term planning and global growth. Who knows what that means? So I guess the question is, does this change anything about TNA? We should say that since April 2015, Corgan has been involved with the company as the senior producer, creative and talent development, which I think is basically booker or close to booker. And I will say, TNA has gotten a lot better in the last year and a half.
It definitely has. Think of it this way. People are actually talking about TNA recently. That means something.
Yes.
TNA is like, I haven't been watching it regularly because, I got tired of watching TNA regularly, but I haven't watched it so much lately, but after the after the Hardys thing, it did make me want to watch it again. Because they're, like watching the show with that stuff on there, you think like, oh, well, TNA has like some different wrestlers now. They've got different people there. Moose is there.
Moose is there. Damian Sandow's there.
Yeah, Sandow showed up. That's big news. So you've got all these people there, and it's interesting. So maybe I'll start watching some more TNA.
I mean, it has gotten better. The quality has improved a lot, and I don't think Dixie took it in a very good direction for a lot of reasons. And the less involved she is, she still apparently is involved in a significant way, but the less involved she is, probably the better. And I don't actually know what this means behind the scenes. I don't know if this means that Billy Corgan now owns a controlling interest in the company. I have no idea what that entails, which I imagine would go a long way toward, you know, determining once and for all, who's really in charge. But I mean, his involvement has at least been associated with a positive time in TNA's creative arc. So I'm certainly willing to give it a shot and see what the new Billy Corgan-led TNA can come up with.
Yeah, I think I'm willing to give it a shot. I mean, I know TNA has a kind of bad reputation that nobody is willing to give them a shot, but I'm going to be one of the people. I'll be on the early cusp of this. I'm going to give them a Billy Corgan headed shot.
Absolutely.
And
Uh,
so yeah, but I mean that was also news that Damien Sandow is now in TNA.
that's right. Damien Sandow in TNA. What's Samian Dandow doing in the Impact Zone?
What was his name now? It's like Aaron Rex.
Yeah, something like that. Aaron Rex, I think. All right, he's a real talented guy. WWE didn't know what to do with him, and I'd love to see him actually get a shot to prove he's like a main eventer in TNA.
That's right. TNA did a bunch of stuff. Also, they made some new titles. They got rid of the King of the Mountain title. Um,
That's right. It's now the Grand Championship or
yes.
something.
And they have that weird MMA light title.
Yes, that's right. It's going to be defended with MMA rules. So there's going to be like rounds and judging and stuff. It sounds awful, but
That actually does
they're
sound
trying
awful.
something.
I hope they don't do that a lot.
Yeah, I hope that doesn't become I mean, like a worked MMA thing never comes across well. It's been tried many different times by many different promotions, and it's never MMA enough for the MMA fans, and it's never wrestling enough for the wrestling fans.
Yeah, basically. Basically, that's how it's going to be. Um, if if places like Pride and Pancrase couldn't do it right, I really don't think TNA is going to do it right.
Right. Yeah, I mean, didn't they try something like this before? I seem to remember Jeff Jarrett attempting he's like a shoot fighter gimmick.
Oh
Of
man.
all the guys to
Yeah,
try
I
it.
don't know. Possibly.
Um, but so some good news and some not so good news for TNA, but I think the good news strongly outweighs the bad. I believe the TNA Doomsday Clock had been at 11:47.
Was it that low?
We
Did
have
we
to
move it back that
we have to
far?
start writing this
Yeah.
down.
Maybe I thought it was at 54.
I think it went down farther because of I don't remember what. Maybe like a new taping scheduled at Universal Studios.
Oh, I don't remember.
11:50, let's say.
Okay, we'll
So,
even
so
it out in the middle there. We'll say it was at 11:50 even though it's probably not.
does uh does this change the TNA Doomsday Clock? This
I think
news?
it does. I mean,
I
I
think it
think
does
of Billy
too.
Corgan as like TNA getting a new president is a big deal.
Yes, it is.
And because everybody who's ever been a part of TNA has said like one of the worst things about TNA is that Dixie is the president. She doesn't know what she's doing. And like,
Right.
now that she's not the president, like maybe TNA actually could change for the better.
And there were definitely a couple of rumors where it seemed like it was at least possible that they would bring in president or an owning authority even worse than Dixie. Remember the Harris brothers were in the
Oh
mix.
yeah. That
So I feel like this is not only avoided disaster, but may potentially be a clear step in the right direction.
could be. I mean, I hope it is because it would be nice to have an actual like viable promotion for other people to go to.
Yes. Even if it's not going to be, and I don't think it ever will be like a big two, a real competitor, just like a place where people can go and earn a good living and do stuff outside the WWE. Um, I think that would be obviously positive for all of wrestling.
Yeah, I mean, because I want to see the Ryborg in the Impact Zone.
Yes. Yeah, let's face it, there are a lot of guys in WWE who are more talented than they're being used. And, where do those guys go? They can't go anywhere right now. Um, except the indies, and it's hard to make a living in the indies, certainly not the kind of living you make in WWE. I'd love to see Sheamus, have a main event run in a company that sort of knows better how to use him. Or even Dolph Ziggler.
Yeah, I mean, there's a lot. I mean, I guess Dolph Ziggler's kind of getting a push right now.
He is. We'll see how long it lasts.
Could be good.
Sandow's a perfect example of it. Like, he was popular, the fans liked him, he was good at what he did, and they just didn't know what to do with him. So they just hung him out to dry, and this could be a real opportunity for him to make a splash.
I hope it is. I mean, I hope he gets like a good bump here. I hope TNA gets a bump out of it too, because he was popular, but just they never used him.
And I assume Ryborg will be showing up in TNA sooner or later, and that would be good too. Maybe even Alex Riley, huh?
The Rage Cage.
The Rage Cage. He could make his way to TNA. And he could just be Rage Cage. That could be his name. And his whole thing would be that he's angry all the time. So that was our TNA news. We talked about a fan rushing a member of the Shield. It's a hallowed tradition here. All right, I want to talk about this. This is sort of old news also at this point, but or maybe not. So we had talked at length about the controversy between Vader and Will Ospreay after the there was a New Japan match. It was a tournament, right? It wasn't. Was it the Super Juniors? No. What was it?
No, maybe it was Super Juniors.
Maybe it was Super Juniors. Yeah. Earlier this year, Ricochet Ospreay had that match, and there was that GIF of the two of them basically reenacting the Matrix. And Vader tweeted saying like, "Oh, this is terrible for the business." Ospreay and Vader got in a war of words. A bunch of people got involved, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. The upshot, because this is wrestling, people knew they had a moneymaker. So the upshot of this was Rev Pro, Revolution Pro UK, very good promotion in Britain, actually booked a match. Will Ospreay, who's sort of their top guy right now, against Big Van Vader. And the match was Friday. So Vader's 61 years old. And, he's not going to be doing moonsaults anymore, that's for sure. But they had the match. It was a packed house in York Hall, which I assume is in York, but British people, please feel free to correct me if I'm wrong. And just from seeing clips online and pictures, it looks like a big room, close to packed, if not a sellout. And so Vader won. I hope I'm not giving any spoilers away. It was all reported all over the internet. Vader won. Vader went over Ospreay, and nerds were so mad.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, people reacted, the way they do normally to WWE decisions. And we should also say that Vader won with outside interference. So, but my take on it, I'd like to hear yours. My take is, it doesn't matter that Vader won. First of all, it's wrestling. It doesn't really matter who wins and loses. We know that. Second of all, with outside interference, the guy who loses saves face. There's no question of that. And third, it just makes sense that Vader wins. Like, I don't see why. I mean, I don't know why people are upset. I don't know why people think it's a big deal. He's Vader. He's one of the biggest names of the last 30 years. It's fine that he won a wrestling match.
But also, like, he's huge. I mean, like, physically he's huge. Like, even though he's 60 or whatever, it's not like he's can't walk. You know what I mean? Like,
no, that's true.
He's
although he was not quite as agile.
No, he's not very agile. But generally agile is not something an adjective you'd attach to Vader at any time.
No, that's true. Although he could do moonsaults.
That's true.
Pretty amazing for a guy.
He should still do moonsaults, because Terry Funk can still do moonsaults.
Terry Funk, yeah, absolutely. Terry Funk, 61. That's probably when he learned to do moonsaults.
Well, actually, he learned to do it at like 50 or so, but
close enough. But yeah, so I don't really care about that. But nerds are really upset. Whatever, nerds are always upset. The other thing that struck my attention, caught my fancy, ESPN, the worldwide leader in sports, the big sports, all the time, Sportsathon, Sportsapalooza, Sports Network here in the United States. ESPN on their website and integrated into their programming now have what they call a vertical that focuses just on pro wrestling. So a vertical is like a separate coverage area. If you go to espn.com/WWE, you will go to their new vertical. Now, as that URL indicates, so far ESPN seems to think that pro wrestling is synonymous with Vince McMahon and company. There's no coverage of any wrestling outside WWE. I'm always interested in when the mainstream covers wrestling. I think that's fascinating to see how people who aren't in the bubble perceive it and how they cover it. And ESPN has said, how, hey, we're going to cover this the way we cover any kind of sport, which is, depending on which sport we're talking about, is either good news or bad news. Their meaning is that they're going to treat it like any other news story. I don't know. That sort of remains to be seen. But I don't know. I think it could be good. I would like to see more mainstream news coverage of wrestling, but just sort of basically like a kind of knockoff of Cage Side Seats about only the WWE does not seem to be the way to go about it to me.
Yeah, that's kind of true. I don't see only about the WWE as being like a really, something you'd want to check out. If you're a wrestling fan who looks at wrestling websites, like, cutting out all the interesting stuff is probably not the best idea.
Right. And I'm sure their calculation is, all right, we're going for the largest possible audience, and the largest possible audience is only going to be familiar with WWE. And I mean, most of the stuff we talk about is WWE because that's just what people know and follow. And I mean, it's interesting, but I'm not saying don't cover WWE, but if you're ESPN, you actually have some resources you can devote to something. Along with your WWE stories, throw in a feature on PWG or New Japan people might be interested in. American soccer fans follow soccer all over the world. It's not hard for them to imagine like their equivalent in wrestling following wrestling promotions outside the United States. Do something on Lucha Libre. There's all kinds of stories that can be told. Sports Illustrated does a great example of this in their wrestling coverage, where their guy like interviews independent wrestlers and promoters and does all kinds of coverage alongside his WWE stuff. Like, it's not impossible, and especially if you're paying people, which ESPN actually does, you can do a lot of good stuff with it. I'm glad to see they're dipping their toe into wrestling and they're taking wrestling seriously or appearing to, but there's more to the wrestling world than WWE.
There's much more, much more. But, I guess if they're just starting out that way, I guess it makes sense. If they're going to expand it later, probably that's fine.
Yeah, maybe based on interest. If they see enough people, wanting to follow wrestling coverage, they'll do that.
See, I think
that would be fine.
The thing is like because there's such a turnover, like people are leaving and coming to the WWE all the time. Like eventually you just have to start covering that stuff because like you'll see like, I'm sure any CM Punk article gets a lot of clicks. You know what I mean? And he's not part of WWE anymore, but like, what's he doing? That kind of thing. So like if the Ryback or whatever shows up in TNA, that's big news. People will look at that. If something like that happens, or if someone like from New Japan shows up in WWE, like, what are you going to do? Write an article about that and not mention the the part that the dude's from New Japan?
Right. Yeah, I mean, like, it's worth noting that even WWE has started talking about wrestling outside WWE, which you never would have seen before. Like, not just on their website where they've done, features on Evolve and Ring of Honor, but also, more importantly in the Cruiserweight Classic, where like when guys who have been in AAA or New Japan are in the ring, Mauro Ranallo and Daniel Bryan talk about what those guys did in New Japan and AAA. Even Michael Cole was talking about AJ Styles winning the IWGP Heavyweight Championship. I mean, so that kind of stuff is filtering its way into the WWE. It seems like sooner or later you got to follow suit if you're going to cover pro wrestling in 2016.
Unless it's TNA, because then they'll never mention you.
That's that's right. Yeah, that's true. Poor
They'll
TNA.
mention you as working on the indies.
That's right. Yeah. You know what? Sometimes I love and admire the pettiness of Vince Jr.
Uh,
Such a weird, crazy guy.
yes. So great.
Um. All right, I think that's it for news. But we've got two big shows coming up this weekend. The wrestling world is coming to New York this weekend. All kinds of indie shows are doing, or indie promotions are doing shows in New York, because of course it's SummerSlam weekend, and that also means NXT has a show the night before SummerSlam. They had called this Back to Brooklyn originally, but now they're calling it Brooklyn 2. I'm kind of bummed out about that. Back to Brooklyn sounds like a cool like 93, 94 era hip
I was
hop
just
album.
thinking that. I was just thinking, like, this is a Run DMC album name.
Yeah, yeah. Like I could, back to like I could see listening to Back to Brooklyn back in the day, but Brooklyn 2 is just there's not much creativity there. However, let's take a quick look at the card, and as we always do when NXT runs shows adjacent to WWE, we'll talk about which card we're looking forward to more. All right, so back to Brooklyn. I'm sorry, Brooklyn 2. We've got Ember Moon versus TBA. Presumably her opponent will be announced this week. I'm excited about this no matter who she wrestles because Ember Moon was Athena on the Indies and was phenomenal. She's a really good wrestler, can do a lot of things. I have this dream match in my head of her versus Asuka. In many ways, they're very similar. They have like sort of the strong style, hard striking offense. That could be a really good matchup. So I don't really care who she wrestles. It's going to be good. We've got No Way Jose versus Austin Aries. I want to be honest, not super jazzed about either of these guys in NXT right now.
Yeah, neither am I.
I mean, I like Austin Aries, but he hasn't been doing all that much in TNA. And No Way Jose has just not connected with me.
Yeah, I'm not feeling that either.
It feels like he is one of those guys. They NXT has a lot of successes, but they also have a lot of misses, and it just feels like from the beginning they were not putting much thought into this guy. I mean, his name is No Way Jose.
Yeah, I mean, you can't get settled with that and hope to be successful.
Yeah, like who? Can you imagine Can you imagine someone announcing, and our new world heavyweight champion, No Way Jose? That's such a weird Vince Co. I mean, like at any point in the last 25 years, Vince would have stuck some guy with the name No Way Jose.
I imagine that No Way Jose would have been would be a comedy character in the 80s.
Yes. Yeah.
Not someone who you would
mean,
expect to take any type of serious.
No, and they've tried to like make him darker recently, and it's just not a good idea. He just needs a rethink, I think. My prediction, I guess, would be Aries wins that match.
Yeah, geez. I would go with that prediction.
And also, imagine Ember Moon will beat whoever she's up against. Next up, we have a match I am very much looking forward to. This is the Revival versus Johnny Gargano and Tommaso Ciampa for the NXT Tag Team Championship. I should say that like Ciampa and Gargano still have indie dates. They have indie dates into September, and then they come to NXT full time. So the fact that they're like wrestling for a championship is just amazing, and is a sign of how much things have changed. Even in the House of Vince in recent years. Revival may be my favorite current tag team.
Even more than American Alpha?
Yes, even more than American Alpha, who I also love. But the Revival, they just do so many things so well, and they remind me of like an old school NWA 1980s Southern tag team.
In the same way that the Ascension does?
The Ascension reminds me of like the worst, like crappy territories attempt to make the Road Warriors.
That's
Like,
like exactly like the '80s NWA tag teams, Tom.
I'm thinking like Arn and Tully.
Uh,
Like the Revival makes me think of those guys.
so you're thinking more Arn and Tully and less Blade Runner Rock and
I'm always thinking of the Blade Runners, but yeah, like they have that like gritty kind of, and I mean, they do. They're just great heel wrestlers. Like they come across as bad guys who can sort of back it up, which is one of those things that Arn and Tully had, right? They weren't the cowardly runaway guys. They were the guys who really wanted to fight you because they were pretty confident they could kick your ass. And I like that about the Revival. I don't think that Gargano and Ciampa are going to win, but they're two of my favorite wrestlers right now. I like those guys so much. I've seen them so many times, and they work harder than anyone, and they really deserve all the success they're having right now. But having said that, it makes more sense to keep the Revival on as the tag team champions.
yeah, it sort of does. But also, Tommaso and Ciampa don't have a tag team name.
No, that's true. Yeah, that's true.
So
That's
they have
true.
no tag team names, so they're obviously not being handled seriously as tag team competitors. So probably they're not going to win the titles.
No, and you know what? I'm kind of I'm mildly relieved that they don't have a tag team name, just because I'm just worried Vince would not be able to demand they have some kind of stereotypical Italian gimmick.
The
It's two
return of
guys.
FBI.
Yeah. No, but not even something like that. Like they'd be like Mario and Luigi, or worse, Wario and Waluigi. Like Vince, I just think he'd see like two Italian names. The old Carney Vince would kick in and he'd be like, "All right, these two guys are pizza delivery men. Yeah." And then they'd be done. No one would care about them.
Oh yeah, I could see that being an actual thing in the '80s.
Oh my god, yeah. Yeah, or the early 90s WWE when every wrestler had another job.
Man, that like the early '90s WWE is like the pinnacle of garbage.
Oh
But
god, yeah.
it's like, remember when Vince McMahon brought in the Road Warriors as the Legion of Doom? Do you
Yes.
remember like in by the near the end of the Legion of Doom's like thing? And I mean obviously it was not exactly due to this, but like you remember the Legion of Doom had that puppet, the ventriloquist dummy they found?
Oh god, yeah.
So like, shortly after that they quit the WWE, but like mostly I think it was because of the drug issues with Hawk. But
Yeah.
you know, I assume that they got saddled with that dummy thing, and then Hawk is like all drugged up on something, and he's just like under the influence of drugs. He's thinking like, I'm not working with a dummy anymore. I'm gonna fuck off out of here to Japan. See ya.
The dummy, if you don't there they oh god, it
What
was
was
so
the
bad. If you
dummy's
don't
name?
remember
Was it
this,
Rocco?
it was Rocco. And Paul Ellering would come to the ring with Rocco, and they sometimes he would come to the ring like on a motorcycle and Rocco would be attached to the handlebars.
Oh yeah, and then do you remember Hawk left, and there was who was the new Road Warrior, Tom?
Oh god, yeah.
No, 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 no,
Draws,
no. That
right?
was Road Warriors 2000. The who did they after Hawk left? They replaced Hawk with Road Warrior Crush.
Oh, that's right, Crush.
Road Warrior
Oh
Crush,
my
Tom.
god.
Or I guess, yeah, I guess Road Warrior Crush. I mean,
That was such a bleak time. It's almost like it's like those later incarnations of the Four Horsemen that I've just sort of like managed to blank out from my memory.
oh man, Crush. This is like such a digression from what we were talking about, but Crush was like so awful. Man, he was like always the add-on dude. Like remember he was like the new member of Demolition, and then like
That's right.
Demolition broke up, and he was later on the new member of the Road Warriors, and then like he was Kona Crush, the Hawaiian pineapple crusher guy. If you remember Kona Crush, he had like he looked like a pack of fluorescent colors exploded, and he would in his promo he had like him crushing a coconut with his hands, and he was Hawaiian. That was his thing.
And the weird thing is that may have been his best
It
role.
might have been. What was that biker gang thing that they had going on with Crush? Do you remember that? It was really brief.
Oh yeah,
Um,
yeah. I forget the details.
what the hell was the name of that? I totally forget. But man, then he was in WCW. I think that biker gang thing might have been in WCW. I don't remember.
It might have been. It's hard to keep it all straight because especially because after like again after the real Road Warriors broke up, it was just like you just wanted to forget the whole thing was happening.
Yeah, jeez. But the Road Warriors got back together in Japan.
That's right.
Like Animal finished out his contract, and then he went to Japan and joined back up with Hawk. Poor Crush.
Poor Crush indeed. Um. Oh, anyway, back to Brooklyn, or should I say back to Brooklyn too? So anyway, I think the revival goes over Gargano and Ciampa. I'm excited about the next match. It's Bobby Roode's TV debut in a wrestling ring. The glorious Bobby Roode. I love the character he's doing right now, the arrogant, cocky jerk, and he's going to be wrestling Andrade Almas, who is La Sombra. To those of us who hate his new name,
Yeah, jeez. His new name is awful.
yeah. Normally, I'm not one of those people who's like, "Oh, the indie name was so much better." Like, and I normally hate that, but in this case, it's really better.
NXT is like, um, usually it's been pretty good about letting people keep their original names. I assume that the La Sombra name is probably owned by somebody else,
Oh, that could be. Yeah, I hadn't thought about
but
that.
why the one that it is now? I mean like, and another one. Why Oni Lorkin?
Oh, the Oni Lorcan thing. Holy cow! I don't know. It's because at first they just had him use his government name. He was Christopher Gerard, which is fine. But then Oni Lorcan. Like I don't how I mean, how do you come back from Oni Lorcan? I mean, if they let him do his thing, he'll be fine. But still, it's just a weird. Every once in a while, they'll do that, and you'll think, well, I don't know what you're doing. But honestly, some of the name changes they've made, like Prince Devitt to Finn Balor, that's
Yeah,
fine.
that one's okay.
Kenta to Hideo Itami, that's fine too. Um, I like El Generico to Sami Zayn. That makes sense because you couldn't stick with the El Generico gimmick forever. It was time to retire that.
That's true.
Um, but like, God, Oni Lorcan and Andrade Almas, uh, and then like they're bringing in Mascaro Dorado and Lince Dorado. They're letting Lince Dorado stay the way he is, and they're calling Mascaro Dorado Grand Metalik, which is actually
Yeah,
cooler.
I know. I was thinking like Grand Metalik is actually cooler.
So like they know what to do. I just in this case they are not doing it. But that'll be a good match anyway. I'll have fun watching it. I'm sure Bobby Roode will win. It doesn't make sense to kind of bring him in and build him up and then have him lose to a guy who's kind of floundering in the mid card. But I'll enjoy the match for sure.
Yeah, I wonder what they're gonna do with poor old La Sombra. I guess he'll be in the cruiserweight division when that happens.
You'd think so, yeah. I mean, especially if they're bringing in all these guys from the cruiserweight classic, they're gonna. I hate to say it, but they're gonna need mid card guys.
Yeah, yeah.
Um, all right. After that, I am very nervous about this match for the women's NXT Women's Championship, Asuka versus Bayley. I'm very nervous that Bayley is going to win.
Oh, I hope not.
I also hope not. Um, I think the way they've done everything with Asuka right now has been great. Um, but I don't know why they'd be keeping Bailey around this long if not to win the title and become the only two-time uh, NXT Women's Champion.
It seems like they'll do that just so she can say it when she comes up to the main roster.
Exactly.
Otherwise, like, I don't know why they do this match again. Unless they're going to bring Asuka up.
That's possible too. And that would make either one would make sense. I honestly think and I know this is not a popular opinion among the wrestling faithful, but I think there's more upside to Asuka than Bailey.
I agree. I'm not like a huge Bailey fan, so um,
I'm not. She's real good in the ring,
she just creeps me
but
out.
yeah, her character is weird, and her character is weird, and also like she's bad on the mic.
Oh yeah, she is.
Last week they had her come out and do a promo. She always sounds like she took 3 Valium before getting on the mic. She just kind of like drags it out, and I'm gonna come out, Asuka, and I'm gonna be right here. And after her promo last week, there were a lot of, because she's very popular with nerds on the internet. And there were a lot of nerds on the internet saying things like, "So, jerks, you still think Bailey's not good on the mic?" And I was just about to tweet something about how she was terrible, or not, but I don't want to be a dick, but like, I was about to tweet something like, something about Valium, probably. I'm a dick. But like, she hasn't gotten better, and that's a problem. And I just don't know if her character is going to connect with like Raw fans, the 3 million people who watch Raw every week. Like, I don't know if she's going to have that. I could see little girls liking her, but how many little girls are there in the WWE audience?
Yeah. Well, I mean, there must be some, but um, yeah, I don't know. I don't know what it is about Bailey. She's a good wrestler though, so I guess like we could expect a good match.
Yeah. Oh yeah, it'll be a good match. It'll be a good match. I worry that Bailey's going to win.
I hope not. I hope Asuka is the
I hope.
undefeated champion forever. Chic style, original Chic style, like 20 years.
Or at least at least bring in like she's beat her. So like someone like Ember Moon, like who can now be like a credible challenger because Asuka hasn't wrestled her before. Like bring in other people. Don't just have this like weird semi-nonsensical, oh, now Bailey can beat her thing.
Bailey has been training
Um,
hard.
yeah, they have kind of built it up. And like they've really made Asuka the very subtle heel, like kind of intimidating Bailey, and I think that's a good decision, but it also makes me think Bailey's gonna win.
Yeah, I hope she doesn't though.
I also hope she doesn't.
Because what are they going to do with that? Just, I mean, where does that leave Asuka?
Right, exactly. What do they do with Asuka after that? I mean, I guess they can bring her up. Certainly, that they need more women in the main rosters since they decided to split the women between SmackDown and Raw. But yeah, I don't know. I'd very much like to see Asuka retain and then have a feud with Ember Moon.
Yeah, that makes more sense to me.
Um, Main event: Shinsuke Nakamura versus Samoa Joe for the NXT Championship. This is interesting. So, what do you think happens here? I mean, it's going to be a great match for sure. Do you think Joe retains, or do you think Nakamura wins? I mean, it's to me, it seems the quicker they bring Nakamura up to the main roster, the better. But I don't know. Maybe it would be cool to have him as champion.
Yeah, I don't know. It seems like they'd want him to win. He hasn't lost any matches yet, has he?
No, he has not.
And you know, it would seem strange, like if they're not going to bring up Joe ever, which seems probable, that that they would have him lose to the guy they actually are going to bring up.
Right. Yeah. Yeah, it does seem weird that they're not going to bring. Although, I mean, anything can change, but it seems weird that they haven't brought Joe up yet. Although they took a lot longer with Finn Balor than I thought they would.
That's true. Though, they're kind of doing okay with Finn Balor.
Yeah, he's well. why don't we get into SummerSlam? SummerSlam is going to be on Sunday. I'm going to be so this weekend. I'm going to be in upstate New York, and I'm going to try to leave on Sunday in time to make it for SummerSlam. I don't know if I'll be able to watch NXT Takeover on Saturday night, but I'm also going to try that. I'm going to bring my laptop.
Your brother will watch it. He'll
we'll
watch it.
Yeah, I think he will. I just think it might start too early. I think the kids will still be awake. They're like, kids, go to bed. I want to watch the revival.
Start those kids early on some pro wrestling time.
That's right. And much better for them to start with NXT than with SummerSlam. So, all right. SummerSlam. We have a 6-woman tag team match. Becky Lynch, Carmella, and Naomi versus Alexa Bliss, Eva Marie, and Natalya. What say you?
I say that's going to be the worst match on the show.
It seems like something I won't disagree with. I don't dislike those competitors, but I don't know. I just don't see that being a very good match.
Well,
I think the best possible use for Eva Marie is the one they have right now for her, in which she never wrestles.
Perfect.
And I generally like it. I like her gimmick is that she comes out and like finds a way to avoid wrestling, but that's because she can't wrestle. And I just don't see. I just don't see this being a particularly good match, which is a shame. I would like it to be, it's a big stage, and I'd like to see women's wrestling get more attention. But this one, I think, is going to be a lot of awkward, slow transitions and just nothing particularly can't miss about it.
Yeah, it's going to be this is the popcorn match. Unless it's the first match, then it means like
I think it might be the first match.
People are getting their seats still match.
Yeah, I think that's kind of what it is.
Well, I mean, it couldn't possibly be the first match, right? Because there'll be pre-show matches, unless this is a pre-show match.
This might be a pre-show match. All right, we've got Cesaro versus Sheamus. First match in a best of 7 series that was announced on Raw.
What?
I think these guys can have good matches. I just haven't really seen a whole lot of fireworks to get me excited so far.
It's Cesaro and Sheamus. We've already seen this match.
I know.
It was a good match, though. It was an alright match. It's just like, I don't know that I want to see it 7 more times.
These guys, they don't seem to have like a lot of chemistry.
Yeah, they had an alright match, though. I mean, I thought the match was good.
I don't think Cesaro can have a... It'd be hard to imagine a bad match with Cesaro.
Yeah, I just think, like, there's no reason to care about it.
No. I don't think there is a reason to care about it. And this whole best of 7 thing is an attempt, I guess, to build suspense and make people care about it, but it doesn't do much for me.
That one, not so excited.
Coming up next, though, I know you're excited about this. It's the United States Championship match. Rusev versus Roman Reigns.
It might be all right. I mean,
I think it's going to be a really good match. I think they've destroyed Roman Reigns.
Basically, I think they have lost confidence in Roman Reigns. So I'm not even sure who's going to win this. Normally, I would have said like, oh yeah, they'll just give this to Roman Reigns. But like now, I'm kind of actually wondering if Rusev is going to win.
Oh, wouldn't it be amazing if Rusev won?
I mean, it's not impossible.
It's not. No. They like Rusev a lot. They're very high on Rusev and Lana, and understandably so. The two of them are great together, and they're both very interesting.
I imagine if Rusev wins, it'll be because of distraction by Lana or something.
That could be. Maybe it's not a clean win. But even 2 months ago, you'd look at this and you'd know, like, okay, Reigns is going to go over Rusev. But now you're right. There's some question about that. Maybe not.
Yeah, you just don't know.
I think I'd like to see Rusev win.
Yeah, I'd rather have Rusev win too because it's more fun to have him as the U.S. champion.
Yeah, I agree. And again, I like Reigns. I'm one of the only Reigns likers on the internet.
And you have a T-shirt.
But yeah, I have a T-shirt for God's sake. But and I think it'll be a great match. Um, but I I don't know. What's he gonna do at the U.S. Championship? They should. I saw somebody suggest this on I think Tape Machine's blog, and it makes so much sense to me. Uh, they should have Samoa Joe come up, and he forms a heel Samoan faction with Roman Reigns and the Usos. I would instantly become way more interested in the Usos and Roman Reigns.
Um, but you like the Usos, Tom.
I would like them even
I
more if they were in a heel Samoan faction
I
with
don't
Samoa
I don't
Joe.
think even a heel Samoan faction with Samoa Joe would make me like the Usos.
Well, there's only one way to find out. They just got to WWE has to comply with that excellent booking suggestion.
The Samoan SWAT team squad.
But I mean, think about that. That would be with Samoa Joe and Roman Reigns. That's a really good tag team. Just those two guys.
Yeah, but then he'd have to get away from his Shield buddies or
That's
buddy, I
right,
guess at this point.
buddy. Yeah, that's right. Well, that's how they could announce. That's how the team could establish itself by, you know, betraying Dean Ambrose.
Well, I mean they're on separate shows now, right? So it's not like
That's right. They can't. It would have to be the pay-per-view betrayal. It's not. It's not impossible. It's unlikely though.
yeah, it seems really unlikely because they'd make Roman Reigns the leader of the group.
Yes, where it should clearly be Samoa Joe because he's the veteran, and then after a while, after a lot of success, there starts to be this tension between him and the young and up and comer Roman Reigns, and then the two of them feud, and Reigns turns face, and the crowd finally accepts him. I just don't think that's going to happen.
Yeah, that's not going to happen. They wouldn't do that. Too much work.
Too much work. So they're just going to keep doing what they're doing, which is not working. Um, Enzo Amore and Big Cass versus Chris Jericho and Kevin Owens. That'd be
The
a good
promos
match.
for this have been really good.
The promos have been outstanding. I think this is going to be one where there's a lot more sizzle than steak.
Yeah, that's probably true.
Uh,
I mean, I like the idea of this, and it's a fun kind of build up to it. So like, it's actually interesting. Like, it's actually something I want to see, but I don't think the match is going to be spectacular.
I agree completely. I've loved the build of this. Um, all four of these guys are so good on the mic, and that's really what has carried this over. I just think, the fall off in actual wrestling talent between the two teams is so steep. The match is not going to be spectacular. It won't be bad. It won't be a bad match, but I don't think it's going to be anyone's choice of match of the night.
Big Cass is going to do a shooting star press. You're gonna.
Now that would be amazing. I would be very excited to see
He's gonna
that.
do the. He's gonna do the red arrow.
Uh, that would be that would be the match of the night if Big Cass does the Red Arrow. However, I think that's unlikely. Um, we have speaking of tag teams, we have the New Day and the tag team champions against the Good Brothers, Luke Gallows and Carl Anderson. This will be good. I think maybe it's finally time for the New Day to lose.
Yeah, I imagine that they're gonna lose.
It makes a lot of sense for the club to get the win here and become champions, which would establish them as like top shelf heels.
Yeah, it makes more sense that way. I think too. I agree with that. Plus, the New Day have been the champion forever.
It's been like a year, just about. I mean, it's been a long, long time, and they've done great. For a lot of that year, they were the only thing worth watching in the tag team division. But yeah, no shame in losing to Gallows and Anderson at SummerSlam.
Yeah, that's true.
We have speaking of the club, John Cena versus AJ Styles. I'm looking forward to this match quite a bit.
Yeah, we've seen it a bunch already, but
We
it's
have.
going to be good anyway.
Yeah, I mean these two work really well together. Arguably they're the best two wrestlers in WWE right now. I think that's clearly true in Styles' case. Cena hasn't had quite the year that he had last year, but it's because he's been gone for most of this year.
That's true. I mean, he was injured, so it kind of takes away from the
Yeah.
spectacular year of last year.
The Miz versus Apollo Crews for the Intercontinental Championship. I assume the Miz will be winning. That's the right decision. I don't have anything against Apollo Crews, but he just doesn't click.
He has zero charisma.
He has zero charisma. That's correct. It hurts to say that, but because he's a very good wrestler, but there's nothing about him that's compelling.
It's absolutely true. There's like nothing exciting about Apollo Crews. I mean, his wrestling is good, so I guess his wrestling is exciting. But like otherwise, he's just
Right.
like just a smiling guy. It's like when I think of Apollo Crews, I just think of a huge smile and big muscles and standing moonsault.
Yeah, and there's no reason to get all excited for his matches because he doesn't have like a personality.
Yeah,
If he was a villain or a hero or just there was something compelling about him that would be different, but it's hard to care. WWE Women's Championship, Sasha Banks versus Charlotte rematch. All right, this will be good. We've seen it before, but looking forward to seeing what they do on a big stage. I think Sasha retains.
yeah. I mean, it doesn't make sense for her to not retain.
What do they do with Charlotte now that she's not champion anymore? Her whole thing was kind of being like the arrogant, I'm the genetically superior champ. So now that she's not the champ, what do they do? Is there a future for Charlotte?
Yeah. I mean, I guess they just have her feud with somebody, start up some kind of feud with her with somebody else. Not that there's many choices at the moment,
No, right now there's not many choices.
but it would make sense for there to be some kind of other feud just to like take her away from the title picture where she's not the champion anymore.
Yeah, I agree. She needs a recharge, a refresh, a reboot. So singles match for the WWE World Championship. Dean Ambrose versus Dolph Ziggler. This is an interesting one.
Dean Ambrose and Dolph Ziggler. That's the one where maybe we could see the return of Dolph Ziggler.
Maybe. Do you think that's likely? Do you think Dolph Ziggler leaves that thing as a WWE champion?
No. I mean, it's possible, I guess.
It's possible.
It's like years too late, but maybe they're going to try to make up for lost time with Dolph Ziggler.
I don't know that they. I have no idea what they think about Dean Ambrose. If they're happy with him, if they're not happy with him. I think he's been a pretty serviceable champ. I don't know if he's like a huge guy to lead the company, but they're in a weird transition period where they once again have two world titles. So maybe they keep it on Dean. I think it makes sense for now anyway. I don't know. I don't see there's any reason to give it to Ziggler other than you want to shake things up.
Yeah, I mean, they might just want to shake things up. You never know.
They might just want to shake things up. Speaking of shaking things up, the other unlikely World Championship match. This one's for the Universal Championship. Finn Balor versus Seth Rollins. I am very much looking forward to this match.
Yeah, should be good.
These two guys are fantastic wrestlers. In some ways, this is a kind of a dream match, right? Tyler Black versus Prince Devitt. I'll be an indie nerd for a second.
Tyler Black versus Prince Devitt. Who would have thought this could ever happen?
Certainly not at SummerSlam.
We we expected this kind of thing to happen at Ring of Honor.
Yeah, right. Yeah, or New Japan. But would not have called this as a SummerSlam matchup. I'm very excited. Who do you think emerges as the first Universal Champion? I think it's got to be Seth Rollins,
Yeah, I'd
right?
imagine it's Seth Rollins. Though, I think like they sort of blew the demon thing on Raw today. Like, what were they thinking? Why would they do that? Like,
I don't
why would they
know.
have him come out
That
as
was
the
a weird
demon,
decision.
and then like not do anything?
I don't know. That was a weird decision. They should have saved that for SummerSlam for sure.
Yeah, because like the thing with the demon is that he's the demon when he has to be. On the big match day, he's the demon, not like for no reason.
Right, yeah, just to like come out and, you know, mess with Seth Rollins or whatever.
It just
It
it
didn't
doesn't
come
make any
across.
sense because like
No.
the thing with the demon is that he has to have like his 20-minute walk out to the ring.
That's right. Yeah, he's got a lot of entrance to get through,
He's got to
which is
yeah,
fine.
but he's there's a build up to that. There's a build up for him being the demon, not just like coming out. You, you need
Yeah, like the whole idea he's got to like get in the right frame of mind or whatever, and I don't know. That was a mistake, I
Yeah,
think.
so the raw demon is a um little less cool demon, a little bit more kiss demon than I'd be hoping for. um, you know, so hopefully they don't screw that up.
Yeah, hopefully they don't. I think the match will be good no matter what. To me, I think the question is just sort of who they decide to put the title on. I think it's almost certainly going to be Rollins. And that brings us to the last match of the card: the Beast, Brock Lesnar versus Randy Orton in the Dream match. Nobody won.
Yeah, I know. I imagine that Brock Lesnar wins. Um, though maybe not. It seems. I mean, it would seem really weird if Brock Lesnar lost coming off of his big UFC win.
Yeah, I think Lesnar definitely wins, and I don't know what this does for Randy Orton at all to bring him back and have him lose in his first match.
Yeah,
I mean, it's not a terrible losing to Brock Lesnar is not, it's not like a terrible embarrassing thing, but it's not like he has a lot of history with Lesnar or something. I could see bringing him back to go up against Cena again, but they didn't do that. They brought him back to go up against Lesnar, and I don't know. I still don't even know why he and Lesnar are fighting.
just because reasons.
Yeah, right.
I wonder,
Yeah.
is there any
I
like
mean,
is there any reason why Randy Orton is fighting Brock Lesnar? Have they given any reason?
they really haven't. It just kind of they brought Orton back, and he was picking a fight with Lesnar.
All right then. I guess I guess people would have probably complained of if it was Randy Orton versus John Cena again, though. It would be like
I'm sure.
round 57 of these two.
I'm sure. Yeah.
Is there
Um,
anybody you're excited to
and
see Randy Orton wrestle?
ooh, I kind of think him and Dean Ambrose could have a good feud, just because Orton is sort of like he does the son of a bitch real well. He's like he can be like the cocky, arrogant. Part of what I don't like about the Lesnar thing is they're making Randy Orton the good guy, and he's much better as a bad guy. Like he's the guy who the thing I like about Randy Orton is the thing that probably like has held him back from being like one of the true greats, and that he clearly doesn't really care about wrestling.
True.
Like he has so much natural ability, and he's like a third generation wrestler that's never been hard for him. But it's not like this like weird passion he's had his whole life, like Daniel Bryan or CM Punk or one of those guys who just got into it because they were kids and they loved it. And he's always been this guy who does it really well but doesn't care about it. And I think that can be a compelling villain character. But and especially against someone like Ambrose, who's like, he's the lunatic asylum or whatever, and has got the indie history and the scrappy underdog thing. But other than that, I don't know. I mean, is there anybody you want to see Randy Orton tussle with?
Maybe AJ Styles could get some good matches out of him.
I would like to see that at least. That's one of those things, one of those matchups. I think I'd like to see it at least once or twice. I bet those would be good matches. Um, and I mean, people love Randy Orton, people love AJ Styles. That would be a good. Um, they could make a lot of money with that, I think. So that's a good one. So what do you think, NXT or SummerSlam? What are you looking forward to more?
Uh, I guess I'm looking forward more to SummerSlam.
I kind of am too.
There's more matches I want to see on SummerSlam at least.
Yeah.
Um, Unlike last year where SummerSlam was like the B show.
Yeah, last year it wasn't even close. I mean, last year, well, for NXT, we were at the Ring of Honor thing. And then we watched SummerSlam the next night and we're like, "Oh boy." It was not that spectacular at all. But yeah, I honestly think that this year SummerSlam is looking more interesting, more stacked, sort of more matches that are going to be compelling. Um, there'll be good ones on NXT, but overall, the card doesn't exactly excite me. I do want to see the Nakamura Samoa Joe match.
Yeah, that should be good.
Um, but I'm not really sure what they have in mind for the outcome, and I think they could easily come up with a bad outcome.
That's true. I won't put coming up with a bad outcome out of the realm of possibility.
No. Moving on from the previews, the last thing I want to talk about, Paste Magazine, which is increasingly doing some wrestling coverage. They posted a list of the 20 best wrestlers of 2016, and I'll just read the list off, and then just give me your thoughts. And especially if you think anyone is missing or anyone should not be on here. Their list from 20 to number 1. Here we go. Ethan Carter III, Kushida, Will Ospreay, Samoa Joe, John Cena, Dalton Castle, Zack Sabre Jr., Cesaro, Ricochet, Chris Hero, Hiroshi Tanahashi, Jay Lethal, Seth Rollins, Finn Balor, Kenny Omega, Kevin Owens, Naito, Okada, AJ Styles, and Shinsuke Nakamura as the best wrestler of 2016 so far.
This isn't really a bad list. Um, it's much better than it could have been. But
Yes.
I imagine that like some of the choices are strange to me. Like, okay, why is Chris Hero so high?
Yeah, I mean he's had a lot of good matches, but he has a lot of good matches every year.
Like, what
I
what
don't
has
know.
he done that's so spectacular this year? Can you think of anything?
No, I mean like I don't. Again, like I like Chris Hero a lot, but I don't know that this is the year of Chris Hero.
Yeah, like you know, it's weird, like, because I really like Dalton Castle too, but like, has he had more
Yeah, I
more
don't know.
awesome matches than John Cena this year? I mean, like, maybe it's
Right.
possible because John Cena was injured for like half the year.
Yeah, but Dalton Castle struck me as kind of a weird choice too. Like Dalton Castle over Will Ospreay, really this year? I mean, this has been
Yeah.
a crazy year
If
for Will
anything, this
Ospreay.
has been the year of Will Ospreay. You know what I mean? Like, it's been big news, big Will Ospreay news all year.
If we're just talking about like 2016, who's having the best year, which is what this list is, I think Will Ospreay's top 5 easily.
Yeah, probably, yeah. I mean, I could understand like Naito in the top five
Yep, definitely.
because I mean I can even understand Nakamura and Styles because like they both had some really good stuff going on, even like in New Japan this year.
Yep.
So like I can accept that Okada as well. Um, but like man, like Jay Lethal,
That's I mean really like Jay Lethal, I like Jay Lethal a lot, but it's felt real stale with him as the champ at Ring of Honor.
But like,
And
what has he been doing? Like anything of note?
yeah,
I,
there's been nothing like Jay Lethal tastic
like,
this
yeah, that's
year.
the thing. Like, it's not that I dislike Jay Lethal. I don't think he's a bad choice. I just think like he's way too high on this list. Like higher than Ricochet, higher than John Cena, higher than
Yeah.
Samoa Joe.
The other thing that really jumped out at me is no women on the
Oh
list.
yeah, no women, but you kind of expect that.
I mean, I don't know. I would say especially like, Asuka, the year she's
Yeah, I know.
had,
I mean, geez, yeah.
and Sasha Banks, you can make a good argument for Mia Yim. I mean, I don't know. It's weird to me they didn't put a single woman on. And other than Ricochet, nobody from uh Lucha Underground. That's weird. Like, I don't know, Rey Mysterio had kind of a career renaissance this year on Lucha Underground. Pentagon Jr. continued his weird streak of being like super popular despite not being all that good in the ring. Um,
It's he's
I
more
don't
of a
know.
character wrestler. You know what I mean? Like he's more of a
He's definitely more of a
he's
character
more of
wrestler.
a Vampiro than a Rey Mysterio.
Yes. Yes. Arguably though, like Dalton Castle, who's a really good wrestler, a lot of his appeal is just the
That's
character.
true. No, that's true. But like I see this list and I think like what I every time I look at a list, I always wonder what is the metric
Right.
because some of these make sense, but like some of them really don't. And I wonder like how do you put like Chris Hero above Ricochet? Like how does that
Yeah.
happen? Because like I can think Ricochet has been like taking part in a bunch of like high profile stuff in New Japan like all year.
Yep.
Whereas Chris Hero, I can think of like he lost a match in Evolve earlier this year. Other
Yeah.
than that, like has he been on TV at all? Has he been in any major promotions?
He's had a ton of fun matches in, PWG and the bigger indies beyond AEW, but like he does that every year. He's super consistent and really good, but like there hasn't been like this crazy groundswell of, oh my God, Chris Hero. I would argue that if if you're taking like an indies guy, Sammy Callahan, who came back to the indies after being in NXT and being released and has been on fire and has had all kinds of great matches all over the world for the indies. It was a pro champion and like he's done a lot of stuff that is to like reestablish like, hey, I'm still a really good wrestler, I'm back. Like he makes more sense to me than you know Jay Lethal or Chris Hero. Kenny Omega, absolutely, I agree. I mean, I don't disagree with any. I think Zack Sabre Jr. should also be higher.
Yeah, I mean that makes sense.
um I know Ibushi was sort of not doing anything for a lot of the year so far, but I don't know. Especially with the attention he's gotten in the Cruiserweight Classic, I would argue for if we're talking top 20 of 2016, Ibushi seems like he's a good choice.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, geez. Well, Ibushi was injured for like half the year too, so I mean that kind of makes sense that he wouldn't be.
Yeah, that's true. I mean, that's a fair point.
But like I just think, how do you? I mean, I kind of see some of these guys. Like I see, why you'd put them in the list. Like, but man, I just like the order for some of them is just really off. It's not a bad list though. I
Yeah,
mean,
it's not a bad list. There was nothing. It wasn't like 20 WWE wrestlers, which is what you normally fear in things
yeah,
like
and
this.
it also wasn't like that other list that was like full of garbage.
Yeah, that's right. The Sports Illustrated list with who I should say that list was not done by their normal wrestling writer. So their normal wrestling writer actually really knows his stuff and does a good job. That list was, I don't know who did that list, but it was a name I didn't recognize and it was someone who clearly didn't know a whole lot about wrestling.
God, Jesus, that list was so bad.
But yeah, this list isn't bad. It's one of those things where I mean I guess every list is going to be subjective and you're going to say, oh, I don't know about that, but sometimes it does feel like they're just slotting in people like, well, we need a Ring of Honor guy, so Jay Lethal. Well,
Yeah,
I don't know. I don't know if 2016 has been Jay Lethal's year.
Like I mean, it kind of feels that way because they're like, we need a TNA guy. EC3.
Right. EC3. Although the fact that you wouldn't take Matt Hardy, that to me is the most shocking
Yeah,
omission.
geez, wow.
This has been like a legitimately like transformative year for Matt Hardy. You know, a guy who was always in the shadow of his brother, and a guy who, like, if you had asked me at the beginning of the year, like, are you going to be really interested in Matt Hardy and caring about what Matt Hardy does? I would say no.
I would say I have never been interested in what Matt Hardy does. And then, like,
Yeah, and like,
6 months later, it'd be like, I think I really like Matt Hardy.
yeah, and I don't have anything against him. It's just like he's been the same guy for 20 years. No, I don't have any interest in his thing. And then he changed completely. I think that deserves a lot of credit too.
I agree with that, definitely. I mean, if I had to make a list of 20 best wrestlers of 2016, Matt Hardy would be on my list.
Absolutely.
Um,
Uh,
I don't know.
maybe.
I mean, I would take some people off of this list and add other people.
Yeah, I would take Jay Lethal off. And again, nothing against Jay Lethal,
Yeah, I would take Jay
but
Lethal off. I would take Chris Hero off. I'd probably take
yeah, I would
I'd
take
probably
Hero.
take Cesaro off.
Yep, I
Um,
would take Cesaro off.
I might, yeah, I'd probably take Dalton Castle off too. Even though
I
I like
agree.
all of those guys.
All those guys I like, and in I think in all those cases I have paid to see all those guys. Going to see Chris Hero at the end of the month, but yeah, I don't know that like this is exactly. 2016 there were people you talk or 2015 you talk about like guys who had crazy years for 2015. None of these guys really have that. None of the guys we're talking about taking off. Like they're doing fine, but it's not like a breakout year or this is the year where they finally won the championship or this is the year where they got all this attention or finally went to the WWE or something. Like it's just all right, they're good, but you know they're not doing anything they weren't doing last year.
Yeah, that's very true. So, I mean, with the sorry, go
Also,
ahead.
Seth Rollins, like he missed most of 2016 so far.
Yeah,
It seems weirdly premature to say he's one of the best. He's had one of the best. He's been one of the best wrestlers of 2016. He missed the first half of the year with an injury.
yeah, and he also was wrestling. Oh yeah, that's right. The feud he was in wasn't even this year, was it? With Kane.
No, no, it was the end of
Yeah,
last year.
so like he hasn't really wrestled at all this year.
Yeah, it seems weird to put him on. I know people were really happy to have him back. I was too, but he hasn't really done much.
And it's strange. It's a strange choice. Um, and not that he doesn't deserve to be on a list of of good
No,
wrestlers.
no,
It's just
no.
like if
But if
we're
we're talking,
only talking
yeah,
about 2016, like, you know, there's a lot of lists like that do the thing where like they make their top list of 26 of a year and then they like don't include wrestlers who haven't wrestled enough. So
right.
like so you'll find like sometimes lists will be like, yeah, they'll have a mention of that like, yeah, Brock Lesnar's not on the list because he didn't wrestle 20 matches this year.
Right. They actually at the start, if you go to the link, they actually said like they mentioned Lesnar and said they weren't including him for that reason. They didn't wrestle
Yeah,
much.
but Seth Rollins has probably wrestled about the same. Well, I mean,
Yeah.
maybe not now, but like,
For the first half of the year, he didn't wrestle at
yeah.
all. Yeah, I don't know. I would take about 5 or 6 of these names off and replace them with, you
Um,
know,
all women to make the list more equal.
I would definitely put some women on there. I really think like Asuka breaking
I would
through.
definitely have added Asuka. Jeez, like she was like an unstoppable force in TNA and not TNA. That would be weird. NXT.
Yeah, like think about how insane it would have been a year ago to say that there was going to be a Japanese woman who was a popular wrestler in the United States in the biggest company in the United States. Like you would have said like no. And she's gotten over as a wrestler. Like not as like a sex object and not as like a goofy comedy foreign character, which is God knows what they've done to Japanese wrestlers in the past. Like she's just gotten over as like a really good wrestler.
It's not that that's impossible because it's happened in WWE before. Bull Nakano is an example. But
Right.
like, man, Jumping Bomb Angels also. Um,
Yes. Although I would argue it like Asuka's popularity is sort of like she's got all these t-shirts and like masks. Like they've really like pushed her. They've understood like let's get behind her and get people,
no,
interested in
I
her.
agree. You're right.
And you're right, it's not impossible, but like they've really like they've decided like this is a priority and they've done it really well. To me, that's shocking that she's not on that list, unless they're going to do like a separate list of the 20 best women wrestlers, but that's dumb.
Yeah, that's silly. So yeah, I mean, I would definitely add Asuka onto this list. Um, who else would you add?
Um,
It seems weird.
I would add Tommaso Ciampa.
It's no, it seems weird that there's not Dean Ambrose on this list.
That is kind of surprising, although I don't know that I'd
No,
put him on the
I know,
list.
but like you'd imagine that like he gets some points for like winning the championship
Yeah,
and like
that's true.
it's like his first time winning the championship. He like was in he, headlining a lots of stuff. Like he's not exactly having a bad year.
No, you can make a good argument for him.
Uh, I mean,
Um,
like he's probably having a better year than Dalton Castle.
yeah, no, that's a good point actually. I mean, like he's got the most high profile title in wrestling. And it's the first time he's won it. He had a big match at WrestleMania, although it was not a great match.
Yeah, I'm not saying like I think his matches have been great. I just think like if you're going by like who's winning titles or who's like in high profile places because that's what it seems like the metric is for a lot of these things. Um, then you know he should be on the list. I mean, because like
Yeah,
otherwise, why is Jay Lethal on there?
no, that makes sense.
I mean, if it's not because he's the title holder, why is it? Because like he hasn't had any spectacular matches that people have been raving about recently. Um,
No, or crazy feuds or anything like that.
yeah, I mean, like, and if you were just like going by sheer amount of like quality matches, like this list would be a bit different.
Yes. Yeah. Um, I think you could make a good argument for Leo Rush. So this year he came out of nowhere to get a title shot against Jay Lethal, become a regular in Ring of Honor, won the Wired Championship in CZW, has showed up all over the place, and has really impressed people. I think if you're like looking for someone who's having a breakout year in 2016, I would say Leo Rush is a good choice.
That's probably true.
Or alternately, Jeff Cobb slash Matanza Cueto, who is finally, after kind of toiling in obscurity in Northern California promotions, he's on Lucha Underground, he's in PWG, he's getting a lot of attention. Either him or Leo Rush, I think, would be a good choice for like breakout of 2016, rookie of the year, if you will. Even though I know both those guys
Or not
have
rookies.
been
Yeah.
around, they're not technically rookies. Um, what about you? Can you think of anyone they're missing from Japan?
Who would be a good Goto maybe is a good choice only because like he is like the first New Japan guy to win the Ring of Honor title or whatever TV title,
Oh
and
yeah,
then
yeah,
like Ishii also wasn't recently had like what they ranked as like a 5-star match versus Kenny Omega.
yeah. I could see that.
Like both of those guys are. Well, I mean, Kenny Omega's in there on the list, but like Goto and Ishii are both really good, and they had like a feud earlier in the year that was like the source of the nastiest headbutts I've ever seen in a match. Like, just it was like you could hear the sound of their skulls hitting each other. It was
Oh,
awful,
oh my God, so
and
brutal.
like that was those two have been really hot this year. I think like um I don't know. I that's maybe it from New Japan who I would put on add to the list. I mean, there's always good people in New Japan, but most of them are on the list already.
Yeah. Yeah, I would say, I mean, either Gargano or Ciampa should be on this list. In terms of coming up from the Indies, still having really good matches in the Indies, and now finally getting signed full time to NXT, like, and getting a tag team championship shot, being in the Cruiserweight Classic, like, and Gargano, of course, was the top guy in Evolve. It doesn't really make sense to me to leave Gargano off. I guess I'd say Gargano over Ciampa just because Gargano's maybe had some more high profile matches and things like that. And he won their match in the Cruiserweight
That
Classic.
makes sense.
Who's not on the list, and I agree with this decision, is the Young Bucks.
Oh yeah,
They're great, but there's nothing this year that makes you say, like, wow, the Young Bucks. They didn't sign with WWE, at least not yet. They're still doing the Bullet Club thing in New Japan, although as a stable, it feels like Bullet Club is winding down a little bit.
It's kind of true. I mean, it's starting to get. Well, I don't know because like Kenny Omega is the leader now, and he's like gonna have the title shot. But like
It's true.
overall, the glamour of it has kind of worn off. It's kind of starting to feel like the NWO did towards like
Yes.
1999 or so.
Yeah, when like Scott Steiner, like just after a while, there's good guys in it, but you're like, oh man, I've seen this so many times before. Well, anyway, I'll post the link to the paste list. It's not a bad list. There's just a few questionable choices on there that I don't know I would have included. But nobody on that list like is a total like ridiculous addition. It's just some people are having better years than some of those guys. So I think that's it for this week. SummerSlam and Brooklyn 2 are this weekend, so that'll be a big deal. We'll be back talking about those next week. In case you want more wrestling content, you can head on over to closetofanxiety.tumblr.com, hawkageandjoe.tumblr.com. I'm on the Twitter machine at TJ Breen. Joe is at xcornmuffinx.
That's
right?
correct.
That's correct. So yeah, if you like it, comment, ask questions, demand to know what we think of stuff. I don't know, whatever. If you have a good Kevin Nash. Oh, I don't know if we talked about this, but so I'm going to the Blitzkrieg Pro 1-year anniversary show on the 27th of August, and it's pretty good. Like Tommy End is going to be there, Chris Hero is going to be there. It's pretty impressive. Also going to be there, Mr. Kevin Nash, and I'm going to go up to him and I'm going to try to find a way to ask him if he has a good match in a way that is not insulting and will not get me beat up.
It'll be good. I hope you can do it.
So if you have any suggestions on wording, let me know. But yeah, because then we would absolutely have to watch the match recommended by Kevin Nash himself.
Yeah, I think that's a necessary thing. If Kevin Nash recommends a match and it's not good, then we're gonna be in trouble.
Yeah. Then I think we just conclude that our search has resulted in no evidence that Kevin Nash has ever had a great match.
That seems reasonable.
All right, everyone. Thank you for listening as always, and we'll talk to you after the SummerSlam.
All right. We will see you guys next time.